Apple is particularly sharp-elbowed, should I say, with people who compete with them. They do it with a smile on their face, but the bane of my existence is that Fitbit and my health product, Apple Health Kit or Apple Health, and Fitbit don't play nicely. I bought a third-party tool. I spent $10 on it to try to get these things to sync. It always breaks it. It doesn't work. Yours seems to work pretty good with Apple, but you're not making a watch. Yeah, and I'm curious, is your relationship really good with Apple because you don't make a watch? And how do you think about your relationships with the Googles, and the Apples of the world, which have said, hey, we're going to own health? They both have said that. Fitbit's getting bought by Google, apparently.
Yeah.
And they want to own health. Apple wants to own health. How do you navigate that as a founder? I'm curious.
So, I think we play nicely with both of them. We distribute the apps on their app stores. We actually integrate with both, Apple Health and Google Fit. So I think we were like, let's be open and neutral. And in that sense, I think, we're partners, right?
Right.
I think because of our view first really on sleep and our focus there as a company, we found it complementary. Just like you are wearing a Fitbit and you have an Oura Ring, we see that with so many Apple Watch wearers, right? And so I think for us...
What percentage of Oura wearers have a Apple Watch?
Don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head.
It's got to be, a third, half?
Probably, I'd assume a third. Yeah, maybe 20%.
I would think so, because, when you're elite enough and well-heeled enough to afford a watch that's $800 or $600, you're going to be able to afford the Oura for 2 or 3 or 3 or 4. And they are complementary. They don't compete with each other. Which leads me to the next question. Which is better overall, to wear a watch or to wear a ring, and why? Is there some difference between what's being collected, or are they both just really great ways to record? Is your ring finger better than your wrist? Or
So the pulse signal from your finger is about 100 times, 2 orders of magnitude stronger than the wrist.
Really? I assume the opposite. That's so interesting.
Well, every hospital, where do they measure your heart rate and your SpO2?
Yeah, they do it on the tip of your finger.
Yeah. So it turns out, how you can feel these arteries on the inside of your wrist, right? It's a lot of blood there. You can feel that pulse. You can't feel your pulse on the backside of your watch sits. Those arteries go to the palm of your hand. What's interesting there, your skin is super thin. Those arteries are close to the surface. That pulse signal then is 100 times stronger as a result. So that's something I actually worked on in college, got to mess around with some optics, right? And wearables. And so that's why I think for us, that's so important. So when you start training this data, I'll give you an example. Right now we record, we've said this before on podcasts, we actually sample at 250 hertz. That's 250 times we're firing our LEDs per second, right? To get the shape of that pulse waveform. We do that 8 hours a night, right? For about 6 nights, right? If you took the Apple Watch and you put it at 250 hertz or a Fitbit or anything, it would die in about an hour because the pulse signal is so much weaker, right? And so the battery life would go kaput. And so as a result, we're able to capture higher fidelity data. I think there's a reason why our COVID data stood out amongst so many. Why, both the NBA, the WNBA, UFC, NASCAR, Red Bull Racing, Las Vegas Sands, have chosen to use our product and our algorithm there. I think you'll see some new stuff coming on the road for us from actually on just sleep staging itself, updating our algorithm to even more accurate, the best that's out there in the field. And I think, we're going to show that with this high fidelity data, we can create algorithms that are just a cut above the rest. And so, while we started on sleep, and we think it's perhaps the most single important thing, and how you start every day. We all arise from sleep every day. Your day starts out of sleep. I think there's a lot more we're going to be doing in total health as we get into the future.
The ring right now is not super bulky, but it's not super thin. I have to take it off as an example when I type, because I'm a fast touch typist. Do you see the ring getting thinner or staying the same and including more objects? And then have you thought about any kind of embeddable technology? And if not, when do you think embeddable technology will happen? I'm not talking about, a neural link in your brain, but it does seem to me that if this works this well, why can't I put something into the palm of my hand, have it surgically implemented, and, have a long life battery that, gives me even more data?
Yeah. So I think on the latter, that's an expensive procedure, more expensive than you think. Even if you go today to get a loop recorder, right, which bedside can do. You don't need to go under to do that. And they implant a little chip and right underneath the skin of, on top of where you're underneath the skin on top of your heart. That's like a $4,000 or $5,000 cost.
Really?
Yeah. If you look at, I think the Medicare reimbursement codes for that, it's been a while.
How different is that heart rate to everything else in the market, like watches and rings and everything?
I mean, what
much
we've
more
shown,
accurate.
yeah, I mean, what we showed though is actually our heart rate and our heart rate variability overnight for every single heartbeat. We're 0.6% correlated with an EKG overnight. So we're getting pretty damn close.
So there goes. It's sort of like cameras. I remember talking to Sergey Brin about cameras 10 years ago, and he was carrying a digital SLR, and he asked me like, what do you think a phone camera is going to be able to do, or digital SLR will be able to do that phone camera? And I was like, well, I don't think about this and this. And he was like, nothing. The software and the algorithms are going to make cameras in phones as good as, and they're going to get rid of digital SLRs. Only people with digital SLRs are going to, and he's right. I mean, you can do all these cool, every year we get like a couple of more low light, the blur effect behind you, all that stuff just gets better and better. So I guess that's what it is, right? The algorithms of the software make up for the lack of fidelity of the sensor.
Yeah, I think think about it this way, on any given week at Oura, we see more data on sleep. Just take 500,000 users. I'm just throwing a number out there because we, publicly said we've sold 500,000 rings now times 7 nights. That's 300, that's a lot of nights, right? 3.5 million nights, right? So that's more than all the sleep labs in America combined in a given week in one single place, right? So that fidelity, that data that you're starting to get as you start to aggregate more and more is super helpful. And those insights then can be obviously really, really rich. So I think data is the new currency, right? And so I think there's a lot there you can do, and you can keep training and seeing, patterns in that data. So yeah, I think, I want to get back though to one of your other questions. So, do we think it can get thinner? Yes. And smaller? Yes. And, I think also we've seen some people want bigger designs, more fashion looking designs. So I think you'll see us flex our muscles a bit there in both directions.
Here comes the SKU craziness. This is that Steve Jobs would be absolutely losing his mind over the number of Apple Watch SKUs. It was like, oh my God, we got how many sizes, how many styles, how many crowns. It just got so crazy. But I guess in this world, you are a fashion accessory and this. Do you have any brand partnerships with, a Gucci or a Prada or some Tiffany or something? And have people approached you about that yet or no?
We've seen interest from all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So I think, how we do that, how you figure that out as a brand, right? Apple went and partnered. Who was it with? Hermes?
Yeah, for the wristband. Hermes.
Fitbit, I think at one point did a partnership with like Tory Burch, if I'm not, I can't even remember.
That's it for like the handles, but a really cool ring that I got, the one with the flat top. I don't know what that's called.
Heritage. Yeah.
Heritage. For some reason, I thought it looked cooler than just round.
Yeah.
I like the flat top.
I like the Heritage too. That's our most popular version.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I wonder if people are going to use these as wedding rings, right?
We've already seen it. We've already found.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, we get a lot of angry wives because they're like, my husband won't wear his wedding ring, but now he's wearing an Oura ring. Like,
oh boy, you're in trouble now. Just wear it on your wedding ring. It's the same thing. I mean, and can you get them engraved? I didn't notice.
We haven't done any engravings yet. I think
that's an interesting one too.
Yeah, that could be pretty cool. The options are endless, but to your point, Steve Jobs had a point. You don't want too many SKU bloat, right? So I think there's always those trade-offs you got to figure out as a company.